3.
Well,
That countdown. 3, 2, 1. We're live.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Equilibrium Collective. My name is Laura-Jayne, and we are joined by Jason Duke. Hello, Jason. How are you?
Oh, yeah, all the way from my bedroom in Cambridgeshire. Yeah.
But so, how's your week been so far?
Okay, yeah, it's. I'm looking forward to next week more, for obvious reasons. We'll be able to get out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so for me. It's like Groundhog Day at the minute. Every day is like blending into one.
Yeah, it has. You're right. Yeah, I thought it was Christmas yesterday, wasn't it? I don't know. It's all a bit. Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Coming
into
next
now.
week. Yeah.
So, right, we are going to get started now. Obviously, the first thing I want to touch base with you, obviously, we've done a bit of talking about how you got into it, but we want to let the listeners know exactly how you got into being an investigative researcher.
Oh, wow, it's a long and varied story. Initially, the thing which would have first put me on this path would have been the fact when I was 6, I died and had to be revived by my dad. Of all things to take me out was a lemon sherbet sweet, which sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it went into my windpipe, stopped me breathing. I have full recollection of everything that happened from that point, including heart stopping, brain screaming inside your skull because you know you're going to die. A serene calmness, which was, it sounds weird, but it'd be nice to get back to that one day. It's it's just complete calmness. It's just like no fears, no worries, just calm. The thing is that my dad actually revived me. My dad was actually working. He was at work. My mum was at work. It was a time, so it was late 70s, and it was a time where parents were allowing other parents. Probably wouldn't happen so much now, but parents wouldn't have other parents' children. And basically, obviously, with the result of me sort of in the suite, not knowing where I was, I went back to my house and then ended up obviously passing out and stopping breathing on the pavement. My dad worked about 25 minutes away from where we lived, and for him to have got back to me and revived me, I mean, I have no idea of the time frame, but all I do know is that I remember leaving my body, going to a different place. So the life review, which to me is like TV screens coming past your head. And then coming to a stop before the light, which I guess a lot of people would have said if you'd have gone into the light, that would have been it. I had a feeling then of everything horrible that you can imagine happening. That was on the left-hand side of me. And then somehow I seemed to be pulled to the right-hand side. It was like I was enveloped through something and ended up in what I guess would be a room. It was strange. It was like foggy and misty. I could make out human shapes, but I couldn't actually clearly see them. And then 2 of them come up to me and sort of spoke to me, but didn't speak in terms of voice. It was in terms of it was just something that I heard inside my head or whatever it was. At that point, I can only assume, because you're not in your corporeal body, you're not solid. I was in whatever the other form is that we possibly become when we pass over. Like I said, they spoke to me and said, "Don't worry, you're not going to be here long. Don't worry, Jace. No need to worry." And then I don't know how long I was there for. The next thing I can remember was a whack. Pain on the back, and then next thing I can remember is taking a really, really long, deep breath, and then realizing that I was there with my dad. And then for a couple of days after that, I felt kind of completely out of sync, like that was my body, and whatever the rest of me was this. And eventually, over time, that came back together, and it led to all kinds of weird experiences. But I think the thing that stuck with me the most was my interest in what had happened to me and trying to make sense of what had happened. It's a very weird and detailed. It's strange. It led me on the path of wanting to find out. I then went into school as soon as we were back at school after the holidays, looking for books on the paranormal and trying to find a way to explain what had happened to me. It's a strange thing. Even now when I think about it, I can still remember the feelings from everything that happened around that. And even to this day now, I still will not eat a sugary, so hard sweet, because of the fear of me choking and that happening again. But basically, it as I said, it led me on that path. I was then the weird kid in school, the weird kid in class that used to freak people out. I was always the one that was reading all the weird stuff. I remember doing a book report I was about 8, book report on spontaneous human combustion, which absolutely freaks my teacher out, because most kids at the age of 8 are not reading that kind of stuff, and they were really worried about me. In fact, I was reading my stuff and doing all these strange drawings and things like that. I didn't really get involved so moving on from that, getting involved in terms of investigating. It was after I'd become a chef and I'd started working in places that had sort of history. I started noticing these things around me. I was working in one place where things would regularly move about. There was another part where they had a function room at the back of the kitchen, and I'd walked through, as I'd be being a chef, and I'd walked through into the function room, and there were 2 chandeliers in this room. One was a lower ceiling, one was a higher ceiling, and both these chandeliers were moving in time together like this. And I watched them moving, and then I watched them stop, and then I watched them start moving again. Now, at the time, I mean, obviously, what was I, about 22? I couldn't see any reason as to what was causing that. There was no fans in there, there were no draft, there were no windows open. Once the door was open, the door was shut. Obviously, you might have thought there would have been a draft causing that, but there was nothing physical that could have caused that. It was then later on I found out that my boss, when they'd renovated that part of the building, had found some bones underneath the concrete floor there, and instead of disposing of them properly, I heard he'd dumped them in a skip. So my thought is then maybe he disturbed something and it was causing that haunting. But I wasn't the only one to experience stuff there. The people that used to live there would often say that they would have people walking through the bar. Someone had come into the kitchen area one time and thought I was working in there, and I wasn't, and they were talking to something that wasn't me. And it was things like that that really spurred it on. It wasn't until sort of 96, 97 I thought, you know what, I need to go out there and start investigating this properly. So prior to that, I'd done an awful lot of reading on the subject of the paranormal. There was quite a lot, but it seemed to be, there was a lot of a weird mixture of stuff. It was very difficult to kind of decipher what was good and what was bad. Obviously, that's changed a lot now because there's a lot more stuff out there. The majority of it is bad, unfortunately. I'm going to say that. TikTok and things like that, I don't really want to get too involved in that.
No. Mostly they're faking out on TikTok, aren't they? Just to like get their views up. And it is, you can clearly see how fake it is.
Ruining the credibility of those people that
it is ruining the credibility of serious investigators.
Yeah, that's a shame. It got like that. I have to say, obviously, growing up where I grew up in Sudbury, I was not that far away from Bali, and obviously that was a place which, for years had been renowned as the most haunted. It was the most haunted house in the world, I think it was called. That was the Rectory. Obviously, the Rectory hasn't stood since I think 43 or 45 or something like that. It's a long time.
Yeah.
So obviously, the only place you could really go to there was the church, and obviously, I think the BBC had investigated there in the 70s, so there was information out there that people believed the church was haunted. And I think there's a really amazing audio recording of noises happening inside the church. I think that's on YouTube, so if you look for that, that was quite interesting. The BBC actually came along and did that, and it's not something you would have thought they would have got involved in investigating. So obviously that was one of the first places I went to, and I noticed pretty soon that the people that live in that area do not want people going there. They hate it. They hate people going there. And Halloween, the police apparently will camp out there and move people on because there's so many people going there. That said, obviously I had gone there a few nights. I've gone there by myself. I've gone there with friends, and I've gone there with my ex-wife, and spent some time investigating. Not too much really going on, and it was. I think the main problem being though is that the people around there don't want you there. So you felt awful being in that situation, but obviously you wanted to go somewhere to investigate. And then there was a place that come up, which I will call Location X, which is a place that I've been investigating for 26 years. And the phenomena that's been recorded there is just off the scale. There's just about every type of phenomena you can think of has been recorded there. There's EVP, really, really clear EVP, audio, other audio, sort of noises and movements. I went there one day with a member of the United States Air Force, and this guy puts missiles on planes. He's very black and white, okay, and not much would freak him out. We were on the far side of the church, and as we stood there videoing on, I think it was like an old JVC recorder, so going back about 20 years, maybe a bit more. We watched in the screen as this thing moved across, and it was like a billowing cloud with changing colours in it, like this. And he looked at me and he goes, "How the fuck did you do that?" And I went, "What are you talking about?" He said, "What we just filmed it. What the hell's that?" And I said, "Well, what do you think it is?" I said, "If I can't rationalise it, you can't rationalise it, then it's got to be something unknown, isn't it?" And with that, pretty quick to get in your Jeep and go back to the base.
Yeah, it does take a lot to get a military man scared.
You know what? He phoned me a couple of days later and he said, what was that? And I said, I don't know. What do you think it? You were there as I was there. We both saw this thing happen. What do you think it was? But he said, I think he's gone back to America. I don't think he spoke to me very much after that, to be honest.
He's like, yeah, no, it's not for me.
Obviously, I mean, there's activity outside the church. There's a very, very good image was taken by one of my friends, Chris Abler. He caught an amazing still image. And the weird thing about that night, we were outside and it was a warm summer's night. And there was I think it was a 14-degree temperature variation from where we stood from one point to another on a warm night in a churchyard. No way you can rationalise that. And we fired off loads and loads of photographs. Not one of them you can see something stood there. I will put that image up for people to look at, and it's one of the most remarkable images I've ever seen. I mean, in all the time I've been doing investigating, 26 years, I've probably got a handful of photos that made me think, whoa, that's really interesting. But that, at the time that we got that, I think it was early 2000s, it really blew us away because it was such a clear and bizarre-looking image. After consulting with the people that look after the church, and I had a friend that eventually got hold of having the key, so I was able to get inside the church, and we recorded all kinds of strange phenomena inside the church. The one which really stands out for me is that I was stood near the pulpit area, and I was basically trying to communicate or ask questions of the vicar or the rector, whoever was in charge of the church. Literally about 15 seconds after me asking for something, a cross appeared in the pews and then just away like this. That's another image I will put up for you to look at. And that was just, it's just one, like I say, I think I've said to, was it you I was saying about it's a bit like playing golf. If you hit that one good shot all game, you remember that one good shot. And it's things like that where you have that, you go there, you put your equipment in place. It's a bit like fishing as well. You haven't really got the right kind of bait to get ghosts because no one knows what that bait is. No. You're sat there for hours and hours waiting for something to happen. And then when you have something happen like that, you just think, well, there's got to be a rational explanation. And if there is not a rational explanation, then you've got to look towards the unknown. And that's what obviously the hunt for the paranormal is all about.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of your videos on YouTube of you investigating Location X. I believe with another team, is it Shadow Paranormal?
Luke, that's Luke, Sophie and James, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff you've seen at Location X, I mean, it's amazing, like just seeing the door close and the other activity that was going on in there. Oh, it's just like makes me really, really want to go there just to experience it.
Literally, we'd got there. I don't even think we'd properly set up. We were in there and we were just talking. I think we were doing a little bit to camera, and I think we weren't even in the proper frame of mind to be investigating. And that door came back and hit the back part of the door. It was like a proper whack, and then the way it shut. And we tried to replicate that for ages afterwards, and we couldn't do it. And obviously, had someone been outside and pushed it, there was nobody outside, and you would the way you come out that door and the way you can only go left or right, we would have seen someone. But and then obviously later on in that video, we had the moment there when we lit the 3 candles, and we had that was a very emotional moment. We all kind of, I actually, one of the things I always used to say to that when I investigated with them was, "Cheers, guys, it's been emotional," and then I'd head off as a joke, But I didn't say it. James goes to me, "You didn't say that," and I said, "No, I said because it actually had been emotional, and I didn't have any need to say it."
Yeah, but I've got a question for you on our comment, Jason. We've got one that says, "What unexplained visuals have you guys witnessed?"
Blimey! If I go back to Paranormal Thrill Seekers, which was the original team, we had. Let's go with the first one. So Location X, we had the stuff that went on in there. We had obviously the light display. We had the emanation thing that moved along the doorway. That's also on that video. Go to the next one. We were investigating to a house in Brampton after the people there had done some renovation. I think I spoke about that earlier, saying about renovation accounting possibly the interference of a building causing it to be haunted. I'm not a massive fan of orbs. I've never been a massive fan of orbs, but we captured something on that video where there were two balls of light that came down together. I'll try and get this up, getting on that thing. So they came down together, and they stopped, and they kind of turned on each other, and then went along sideways along the bed. Now, I've watched dust and particles and moisture and that kind of thing, and obviously when you watch it, it's swirling around, and it doesn't tend to have these deliberate movements. On this occasion, these clearly come down and then move along, and the way that the recorded. Alongside the fact that the camera, which was attached to the wall, was physically jolted as well. Something was physically moving that camera. You can see it jerking about. I couldn't explain that. That was quite a good visual. I think then going along, investigating the Swan Hotel in Lavenham, which is quite a famous haunting. And unfortunately, the house is called the Churchyard Suite. Which I think is probably a bad name for somewhere you don't want people to stay, because obviously, what room we staying in? The Churchyard Suite. Oh, why? Well, that's the room where the maid hung herself. We had a pendulum that was attached to a wall that was basically thrown to the floor, not once but twice, in the space of 24 hours. Both times with people in the room recording it, and nobody was near it. Trying to think of other things that happened in there. I think that room, we'd had so much weird stuff going on in there that we were in that room. We'd gone back in there, and I'd kind of we'd had 3 days in that place, and I got kind of annoyed because we had all these little things happening. We hadn't captured anything, and I made a point of calling out the ghost and saying, you're a coward, you're a taker of your own life, because obviously we're thinking, is it the maid that killed herself? Not something I'd normally do, but I just wanted to see what the reaction was. And the guy that was in that room, there was myself, there was the guy doing the production work with the camera, and there was the audio guy who had one of the furry boom caterpillar mic things, which was near me. And he basically went like this to me to say he'd heard something. And when we stopped filming, and he goes, was anyone else speaking? And I'm saying, well, obviously, I'm the only one that's mic'd up. I'm the only one that's speaking. When I say, you coward, you take your own life, you hear a voice say, don't talk to me like that. And it's really, really clear. So that, I will, again, put the link up to that so people can make up their own mind about that. But
is that what you heard through the camera being recorded? He
goes to me like, something spoke to me like, he goes, that came, whatever it was he said would have been right on top of where the boom mic was. He said that would have been right up, so that would have been, well, no, that was above my head. I mean, I'm 6'8", so that boom mic's got to be out of shot on the camera, so that must have been 7.5 foot. He said whatever that was whispered into that boom mic, don't talk to me like that. And we went down and listened to it a couple of times downstairs in the hall where we'd set with our base camp and set with the equipment up. He said that he was so freaked out he had to leave. He didn't want to. He never came out again with us after that. He said that absolutely did him in. He said because he sounded like a woman's voice that was really angry. Don't talk to me like that. And you can hear it. And then the next, obviously, again, that same room a bit later, 2 of my team members. There's a guy that was on the team. He was. What is it? He's a personal trainer, and he does kickboxing and karate, and he does all these kind of things. And nothing on earth would scare him. When that pendulum is thrown to the floor, he screams like a girl. That's the only way I can describe it. I will put that video up as well. But it takes his breath away. He absolutely loses it, and he was convinced that he had seen something move, grab that thing, and throw it to the floor. Have I answered that question enough, or have I not? I don't know. I was just sort of trying to go through things. The other thing I'm going to say is...
I think you've done a good job on that. I mean, well, don't worry. It's normally me doing all the talking.
I need a drink from the other cup. Look, me 40 in time. Not that I'm 40 in times.
I won't turn me cup round because it's got a half-naked man the other side.
So that's what you drink. Okay, fair enough. That's...
I'll keep that one.
When you tune in live to Equilibrium Blue, or shout, is that what it's called?
Welcome to the Red Room. I mean, obviously, you've got an extensive career in this, spanning over 26 years, isn't it? I mean, you must have been in so many different locations, but which one is probably your top favourite? Say your top 2 favourite of all the locations that you've been in.
Wow, blimey, that's gonna do me a little bit. The thing is, I'm gonna say that although I've been to some big locations, they've never ever really fulfilled the criteria that I would go when I go into these places. They haven't. You know, I don't generally get scared. I mean, I'll sit in a graveyard all night by myself. It won't bother me. I've been in places before. I was what was it, Castle Acre? I was in one of the rooms there, and we were having pebbles thrown at us by something we couldn't see. We were inside. There was 4 of us in this room, and there were pebbles hitting the floor around us. And we had torches and stuff. We were looking. There were no animals in there. There was obviously, it might be a bird just dropping it or whatever. But this thing was continually happening, and it wasn't scary. It didn't bother me. it didn't bother me at all. I found it quite interesting. I want to know what's causing that kind of thing. We can never get to the bottom of that. I mean, like I said, that was a really good one. But I think the two that I'm going to come up with, and they're going to be ones that people go, oh, I don't know what they are, but Location X again, because it's given so much activity, and every time you go in there, you feel like you're going to get something. It just absolutely gets inside you, that place. It's amazing. It can make you feel emotions of all different types of sort of happiness, of sadness, of not anger, but it can make you feel a bit, oh, something's happening, and it just kind of throws you. But the other one I'm going to say, I think is the video you watched, is Little Cornard Church.
Yes, that was amazing, them two videos. I have to put the link down on this afterwards so people can go on and see it.
Oh yeah, please. I've got. I mean, obviously, people that know me know that obviously I don't get scared by things. But that night, that place, all four of us were absolutely on our heels. It really kind of got inside us, and it built and built and built, and then culminated with Luke and myself both seeing what it's going to sound stupid. It was like a goblin walking on the path, and it was like it was mocking us. That was the weird thing. It was kind of walking alongside like this sideways, looking, and it was moving its arms, and it was absolutely freaky. And we both just stopped in our tracks and were like, "What the?" Because it's rationalise it. But everybody that night, I mean, I think James had experienced stuff, Hannah had experienced stuff. Luke said he hadn't really felt much of it until he came off the camera, and I think he says that at the time, and then it kind of really got to him, and then we both had that experience. And then again, 3 weeks later, we're back there and we're looking for answers, because that's what you do when you're a paranormal researcher. You put yourself back in that place to try and explain it, and we still can't explain it. But there's definitely some kind of weird, I want to say elemental force. I mean, that word gets thrown around quite a lot, but one of the things I've noticed is when the activity seems to happen there, you seem to get like a rise in, I don't know, it's hard to explain it. You get wind rushing in from nowhere, and literally there's a massive tree there, and you can feel that wind kind of come in, and then something happens, and then it will dissipate again. And that's such a strange experience. Because the other thing there was I got hit by a stone as well as I was walking.
Yeah, back to mention that about you saw like the red mark on your cheek.
How random. Yeah. So that was, I think that was.
At that point, I would have been running home, getting onto my covers.
The thing I remember about that first night, and this was brilliant. I don't know if you know much about the Romans, but when the Romans go into battle, they all huddle together. So there's no weak point. They link all their arms and their swords and their shields. And when we walked out of there, we had Luke was nearest the gate. There was Hannah just to the left of him. There was James to the right of him, and I was at the back holding the EMF and the K2 meter as we slowly edged to the gate. Oh my god, that really stuck with me. That night we got out of there, I was like, Jesus Christ, the way we left there, it was just like something out of Scooby Doo. It was just, and it was weird how it had built and built and built and got up inside all of us and gave us that little bit of fear, I think, which I kind of enjoyed weirdly. So.
To be fair, I am on the first one. If someone goes, "Here's a digital recorder, who's going to go off on their own?" I'm not normally going, "Yeah, that's me. I'll do it."
So did we miss questions earlier? Because I noticed someone mentioned about a shadow person.
Oh, I believe, I can't see it at the moment. I believe it was Terry that said about a shadow person.
I think she'd experienced.
Yes. She said she saw a shadow hat man, age 6, and it just got weird from then. Pardon?
She was 6, or he was?
She was 6.
I saw a shadow man age 6, and it just got weirder from there. Could you tell us what other weirdness happened? Because I have been to people's homes where they've claimed they've had shadow people. I'm just wondering if you've got any similarity. If she's still there, if you've got anything similar.
Yeah, she's still there. I think she just put. She was. I think she's just writing it now.
Okay. I'll see you then while I'm waiting for.
Yeah, while we're waiting for her to reply, because I was going to say, we're talking about the elementals when it comes to when you do investigations. Like a main one is probably normally is a cold spot. Yeah.
I mean, I've got my own theories to all these things. I mean, obviously, for you to get a cold spot, that means that the hot or warm air has to have risen out of the way to create that cold spot. Because obviously, the cold spot created by the cold air rushing in to take the place. So I'm wondering if through whatever energy, I mean, obviously this is all theory, and it's a theory that, you know, as a paranormal investigator, you have to kind of come up with your own theories as to why these things happen. And I'm wondering if a lot of it, obviously, we use electromagnetic field detectors looking for electromagnetism. Now, obviously, if a ghost or a spirit or an energy, whatever you want to call it, is trying to form and it's trying to pull all of this energy together, is that heating up the area, thus making the air rise, that's then bringing in these cold spots? So there's got to be something in the cold spot. I mean, obviously, you've got to rule out, obviously, you know, if there's a cold spot near a window, it's a window. You know, there's probably a drop. So I think Harry Price famously used to use a piece of cotton with lots of bits of paper on it near a window to see if there was a drip of breeze, which is very old school. It worked for him, so let's not knock Harry. He's brilliant. I mean, I tend to think that thing, I think there was a time a few years ago where I was looking into road ghosts, and I found that quite interesting, that obviously people said that haunting is taking place because someone's died in a crash or been hit by a car or whatever, and they've left their body. And I've often wondered whether if as you see the Earth is a big ball of energy, a big ball of magnetism.
Yeah.
And one of my theories is that obviously when you die or you bleed out your energy, which obviously then is coming out of your body and going somewhere else, whether part of that gets sort of permanently or temporarily trapped on the magnetic plane of the Earth, and that allows for a haunting to take place. And then certainly people that may be sensitive may come into that and may pick up on that because that energy is somehow stored there. But my difficulty has been, I mean, I quite like it when you have an interactive haunting where you're asking questions. And one of the things I think people have noticed if they watch my videos is that I use the gauze meter a lot. And there's been times when the gauze meter sounds almost as if someone's trying to talk through it. And that's always amazed me. And then sadly, I think it was earlier this year, my gauze meter I'd had for 25 years broke. So now I'm having to break in a new gauze meter, which at the moment doesn't feel anything like that one did. So, normal service is not resumed yet until I got that sorted. So, but I've often wondered whether, as I said, as of course, when someone dies and they pass over and they leave that scar, as it were, on the magnetic plane of the Earth to cause the haunting, whether somehow, whenever they've moved on to the next stage, there's a link between that and them, and somehow that's how you get an interactive haunting, because they're somehow still consciously able to manipulate that area where you would then walk into where they passed away. Like I say, it's all theory. There are no facts linked to the paranormal. That's why it's the paranormal. So
no, exactly. That's what we're trying to get. Go out and try and get this evidence to prove it to people. Terry has messaged back now. She's put, I only saw him once, but in that house I also had voices and things moving, and I actually fell down the stairs and was caught by something that wasn't there. Wow.
See, that would make me think that maybe the shadow person that you're seeing, maybe the fact that they've helped you in that way, maybe it's a family member that's passed over. I mean, that would make a lot more sense, wouldn't it, than a random person? Unless it's a very nice, kind, random Samaritan ghost that just happens to, I'll catch this person here. So it's weird when you think of it, because obviously when you think of a ghost, obviously you tend to think it's like a recording of the past, but that sounds interactive. That's amazing. Did you ever get any images of that? Just going to ask. Did you get any images of the shadow? I have got a couple of Shadow Man images, and I will put them up as well. One of them was taken at a place called Silverley Tower, which has got quite a weird, strange history to it. It was basically a town that was deserted after the plague, and the people that lived in that town were pretty much isolated out by the people that lived around them, and they weren't allowed to leave, and the whole village died off, pretty much. They were just left to it, which is horrible when you think of it like that. And there's definitely some kind of strange haunting there, and I think 3 or 4 groups have now gone to that place, which I think I started going to a couple of years ago. Oh, okay, hold on. Simon.
Oh, hello, Simon.
You saw a UFO when you were a kid. That's interesting. How old were you? I had a similar UFO experience. That was seen by, I've got 3 sisters, and we all saw it. We're all in different places, and we all saw this light darting around in the sky doing that. And then it stopped, and then it was like it wasn't even a sound, it was like a whoosh, and then it was gone, just away. So that's 12. Okay. Well, I think one of those things that I've always noticed is that when children tell a story about something that's happened, they seem to be better at communicating exactly what it is, because they see it for what it is, because they haven't had the references or the experiences of life. Whereas, let's say, for example, we saw a ghost and we've been watching ghost stuff on the telly. Somehow in our heads that will link with that, and you will talk about, possibly without meaning to, you will give a different description because you've seen something on the TV. Children haven't really had that chance to do that, and I often find if I go into a house where there is a haunting and the parents allow it, I will often talk to the children if they've had experiences, because their experiences and the way they tell them are a bit more real. It sounds weird, but it's true.
Yeah, that's. I mean, they also say about children they're more susceptible to seeing paranormal than adults because of their innocence, or they're not. I don't understand that sort of side of it because I'm still quite new to all this. I'm still learning and that, but I mean, it's an interesting thing for me to look up really about the kids that see ghosts, and like parents put it down to as like an imaginary friend, and that, but what they're actually really seeing are.
It is an imaginary friend if you think about it. It's that's exactly that, is it not? For a child having an imaginary friend, there's no reason why. The problem with that now is, though, obviously that's spilled over into the horror genre. I know anything attached to a child is evil, which is just rubbish. That absolutely annoys me. I'm not a fan of people like Zach Bagans. I think they have done so much damage to the paranormal field with the stuff they put out there. I think one of the worst things was that ghost house thing that he put up. I was, you know what really annoyed me about that was that he investigated that place. He pretty much investigated that place alone. Before anyone else was even allowed to go and look at that place, it was torn down. Why would you do that?
Is that the demon house that he brought? Yeah. I mean, everything I've noticed when I've watched him, it is basically everything is demons, and I think he just, in my opinion, I find him like it's all entertainment for him. He's not really taking it
money for him
seriously, like as it should be.
There's a lot of people.
Yeah, basically a money-making thing for him.
Oh, sorry, Jess has put. What was it? I've been to the Screaming Woods in Pluckley and saw a woman hanging from a tree. Spirit woman. I think one freaks out by life. Well, yeah, because they'd be dying. Can I just say this? Years ago, one of my friends, he was saying he'd been to Pluckley. He actually lives in Kent, and he phoned me up and he said apparently there's a ghost of a schoolmaster that was found hanging by his pupils, and all I can imagine was like it actually was hanging, but not his. That's how my brain works. Wow, I didn't see it with my eyes, but sorry, I want to go home.
Ooh, see, that's interesting.
That's an interesting thing. Is that often when we're capturing stuff in the paranormal, it is actually captured, and we it's the viewing later we see it, which makes you think maybe when a camera records, it's recording. Then hold on, so that's there, but we're still seeing here. So if you think about it, when you take a picture, that's there, but time's moved on, so we're here. So theoretically, you might not see it with your eyes, but a camera, although they say that thing about the camera never lies, obviously that's not true because we know it can. But yeah, I think the problem is obviously when you're filming something like 30 frames per second. I mean, our eyes aren't looking at 30 frames per second. Our eyes are like now. So like now, if we click, you'll be on that point. So maybe ghosts are just out of phase of our vision. Maybe that's how it's meant to be. Maybe we're not meant to know about things like that. Maybe that's why it's so difficult to actually get proper true images. You see why I can't you? I'm sitting there thinking about stuff all the time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say about spirits. I mean, there's something saying that they're on it's a parallel universe or parallel plane, and it's not ghosts, it's people from a different dimension, and it's like a breakthrough of them coming through to us, and it could be the same for us on their side. I mean, it's an interesting theory when I've looked into it. It could be parallel
with the UFO thing, where they say that when aliens come here, when people get abducted. Although to be fair, it tends to be people generally in America that get abducted. I don't know why that is, but maybe aliens like Americans, or maybe it's because they're less believable when they tell people, so they can get away with it longer. I don't know. But what I'm going to say is that when they come and abduct people, they always talk about them taking sperm and eggs from men and women, obviously. And that makes me think, obviously, there's maybe they're doing it because there's some kind of hybrid thing going in. But what if it's possible that these things that people are seeing, they're not coming from outer space, they're coming from our future, and that's what we would become. And we've gone so far into the future, we've messed up so much stuff that we can no longer have children in the normal way. So what if aliens are in fact us coming back, taking the eggs and sperm, and you know, they're trying to continue our species further on in time? I mean, who knows? I was part of a UFO research group. I was quite quick to leave. A complete bunch of nutters. Anyway. What am I going to say?
I mean, I know you've done. We've briefly talked about Bali Retreat, and I know you've done quite a few investigations there, haven't you?
Well, probably. I mean, if you're talking like short visits and long visits, probably 50 at least. Not the rectory, obviously the church.
Yeah.
And the surrounding village. Last year, I was quite lucky enough. I got hold of some old maps and some bits and pieces, and I found out where the Nuns' Walk is. And there's one part of the original Nuns' Walk, as written down by Harry Price. You can walk that in bit, and I was walking down there, funnily enough, with Luke and Hannah. And while we were walking down there, we actually did hear footsteps, which was weird. My first thought was there was somebody around on the road walking down. I ran around to the other side to look, and I couldn't see anybody there. But they said the noise had continued while I was walking around. Well, there was no one there. I'm not going to say it's the nun. I'm not going to say it's anything. All I'm going to say is that obviously we were there looking for it, and something happened. So I'm hoping to get back to that point. The church is interesting. I don't really want to spend too much more time in the church, but I'm definitely going to try and look into this Nuns' Walk area and try and do an investigation there in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, like, so obviously I'm going to be doing a talk on Harry Price in 2 weeks. So obviously listening to like documentaries, reading up about it, and he studies on it. And a lot of it he faked about stones being thrown and the brick picture, poltergeist activity and all that, and it was found out to be falsified. And also everything that he said happened as soon as he left, none of these things happened anymore, which is like not really been like the evidence since he's left of these things happening.
I would highly recommend reading Ted Babbs's book, The Bali Retreat: Final Analysis, and then because he was part of the SPR and he lived in Long Melford, and I was lucky enough to have quite a few good chats with him and investigated with him on one occasion, which was brilliant. Very old school investigator, and I thought that was great. Had amazing stories. Oh, someone's joined us. Like
hello, Kerry.
Hold on, you mean coming number 4? Your time is up, I think is what she's saying. There's a film about Harry Price that I think is on Netflix or somewhere. It's got nothing to do with actually Harry Price. It's got Harry Price, Paranormal Investigator or something like that, but it's a really horrible, rubbish story about him being a fraud. It's awful. Just have a look for it. I'll see if I can find it and I'll let you know what it's called exactly, but it's strange. Oh, Kerry's here looking serious.
Hi, Kerry.
I have to. I'm terrible. I haven't got my headphones, so when it's not on mute my end, we get a lot of feedback. No
feedback.
Okay.
So often there's this blinding scream, but I just assumed I had a headache coming. That's all.
I've been known to be called that many a time. So
what, headache?
Right. Headache.
Blinding scream.
A headache. Oh, here she comes. Oh, dude, headache.
Okay.
So I've been listening to the things that you've been talking about, and really fascinated by some of the topics. And one of the things that I was interested in when she was talking about cold spots. So my roots is in spiritualism. That's where I started off. I've obviously moved many moons from there. But when we talk about physical mediumship, we talk about trance. One of the things that we noticed because I have participated in trance, and I do believe in it. Of course, as far as ectoplasm and stuff like that, I don't know. But it's a whole other ball game. But when it comes to physical manifestations, transfiguration, that kind of stuff, you know, it can be documented, and it's scientifically documented as well, because they're able to notice the differences in the body when the body goes into an altered state, including breathing and heart rate and stuff like that. So they're able to trace this. But when we do this, when we used to do physical mediumship, the first thing we would notice is the room would become really cold. And what they say is that spirit is trying to manifest, so it will draw the energy from everything. Everything has energy, the sofa, us, the TV, everything's energy. So it draws it from everything for it to be able to then use this energy to then manifest and transfigure. So one of the things I have noticed when we would get on investigations in previous teams and stuff, when we would get a bout of good, you know, captures, like you said, we don't really know what we're going to get, and it is like fishing. We'd always notice that the room would become really cold at first, and then there will be, you know, significant evidence. And I'm not talking, you know, someone's just pitched up, tapped us on the shoulder and said, "Hi, I'm here." Like we'd get a good EVP, and we might get some tapping and some knocking and stuff like that. So I found it quite interesting when you talked about your theory of
exchange of energy.
Yeah, so I found that quite.
Nothing works on this planet without an exchange of energy, and I think that would be the same for any realm. Possibly, you've got to have the fundamental basics of an exchange of energy. Actually, you'll often notice though. Actually, I think it was a couple of the paranormal shorts videos I did with Luke this year where we commented on it's colder, and then the EMF meter would go nuts. My cause meter, which sadly I missed. That's our proper burial for that old one. It's tragic. Yeah, the new one I've got isn't quite. I don't know what's gone on. I think they've changed it somehow. There's a question really. Ouija boards. Ooh. What I'm going to say is that I spent some time messing around with Ouija boards, not in that way, using the light up touch pads that you put on the planchette or the glass.
Yeah.
And unless there was significant movement from somebody, so significant force, that device didn't work. It didn't move. Tried it with and without the device being on there, it moved. When you put the little light pads on, the minute that they were deployed and the light came on, obviously you were fully aware it was being moved. I personally do not believe that a spirit of any kind is going to want to communicate with you through what basically was a board that was a parlor game by, I think, Waddington's or somebody. I've never ever believed that an energy, and especially a malevolent energy, would even need to do that. Surely something that has the power of, say, a demon, wouldn't need that. They wouldn't need that. Why would they need it? They would just come and smash you in the face, wouldn't they? Surely. This is why I don't.
Like I said, with Ouija boards, you don't know, obviously, subconsciously, if someone's using their fingers to push it, because when you've got so many people got their little finger on the glass, you know, and they're trying to move it, I mean, subconsciously, I think somebody is.
It's like you think you're using your little finger. Your little finger has a lot of force. Poke yourself in the eye with it. It fucking hurts. Sorry. Your little finger doesn't mean you can't move it. Jesus, all right, but next time, okay, why don't you put a piece of your hair on it and move it with that? Then see if you can move it. Because that's touching you. That's still the same physical effect, is it not? So it won't, because it needs. And the other thing is the odometer effect, which obviously everyone, and if you know about the odometer effect, which is obviously your involuntary movements that your fingers, your hands, your body, everything does all the time. You rest it on somewhere long enough, and eventually you sit like that for ages. And after a while, you'll start going, not through choice, because that's what happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sorry, I'm very opinionated on that.
Everyone's got their opinion.
No nothing Ouija boards whatsoever, and I think if a malevolent force wanted to come and deal with you, it would just come and do it. So, and to be fair, I still haven't seen that. I've seen brilliant videos on YouTube of a boy being pushed over and a girl falling off a wall, but I mean, really, is that all a demon that wants to take your soul and wants to do all these horrible things? It's just going to shove you over? No, come on.
It's like that in the film Paranormal Activity, isn't it? And it all...
camera. Never.
Yeah. Like Paranormal Activity, it all started, didn't it, with the Ouija boards, and the demon came through, and it's like, oh, here we go.
I will say, the films like Paranormal Activity, And when you go back like Ghost Watch, and as far back as those, they have so much to answer for in terms of how we now respond. Oh wait, I say general public.
No,
Everyone wants to be.
But I think America's influence is what's destroyed it. I've got to say this. I mean, I don't know if there's any Americans on it. I live in an area where I'm surrounded by Americans, and a lot of them that work on the base, and they say the same thing to me. And they say, "Is that vegans?" Well, they don't normally use the word tosser very openly, Americans, but they will use it. And they just generally. It's one of the worst groups to deal with it. First of all, you have the Warrens, who were going around doing whatever the hell they wanted, and basically people praising them for it. The problem with America is you've got an awful lot of religious factions in America, and they're all vying for your attention. So the minute one of them says, "Oh, demons," someone else says, "Oh, demons." Before you know it, 100 people are all saying demons, and then you're down that road of. I don't think we ever had many demons in this country until about 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I think
yes, demons, no.
We have like the suggestion theory has a lot to answer for in this as well. And also, if someone, like, I know we're going off topic, but when I've spoken about the 30 East Drive, I use that as an example. When you have it insidiously dripped to you, if you've already got that ingrained belief before you go and do anything, and then someone is then saying to you, "Yes, it's here," you're gonna find it. And I think this is what Paranormal Activity, and I say Ghost Watch because that's the most historical one I can think about. But War of the Worlds, all these kind of programs were not. They never told you this.
No, there was another one. Living TV did one in the late 90s as well. I didn't know that. Living TV did one as well, very similar to.
Living TV. That's an old channel, in it. Showing your age now.
Screen Team, right?
Yeah, I remember Living TV. Those were the days. I used to sneak up and watch it.
They were called Living TV, yet they had lots of ghost and death on there. Strange.
Well, it was considering the irony there wasn't lost on anyone. I'm sure.
I love irony. Love it. Simon or Jason? I'm not sure what to call you because I know you've changed your name. Is it Simon Lewis?
Simon now, I believe. Simon now.
Yes, Simon. Parapsychology experiments with participants who are blindfolded produces nonsensical sentences. Oh, is this in regards to the trance? Possibly. This is what it might be referred to: trance mediumship and the transfiguration. And voice projection and stuff like that. I mean, I agree. I do know that there is research that states otherwise. We wouldn't be normal people if we didn't have a pro and con. There's lots of different opinions, and we can all use. I mean, I cannot tell you what the math equation is, but I do know there's an equation where 2 + 2 = 1. You can do that in math. So if you can do it you can manipulate things in any way that you want it to be fair. So I do understand, and I do totally get where you're coming from. There's lots of fors and against with lots of different things. But it's a very good point. Thank you, Simon. Thank you. Also, I'd like to ask you, Jason, you've gone through quite a lot of the different locations that you've been through. And we've spoken a little bit about the techniques that you've used to get evidence. I would love to know two examples. One example of a great piece of evidence that you was able to debunk, and then a great piece of evidence that you wasn't able to.
Well, this was amazing. It must have been about a year and a half into when I was doing Paranormal Thrill Seekers. We were called in by a manager of a pub. He was there with his wife and 2 children, and he said to me they had ongoing activity. He'd heard me on the radio, and he said, "Please, could you bring your team in?" And he said, "We'll do sandwiches. It'll be good." So yeah, cool. We're there. You've got sandwiches. You've got cake as well, and tea and beer. We're there. So not so much beer because we're investigating. We don't want to, mess ourselves up.
Should have mixed spirits with spirits, as they say.
Lots of spirits in there. We went to the place, and I think that it was an interesting night because we had about 4 team members that had never been out investigating before. So we were kind of trying to guide them and lead them and show them, how we did things and see if they had any different approaches and what we could all work with. And we noticed that 2 of the bar people there were always sort of close to each other and talking amongst themselves and stuff like that. And we'd set some cameras up, and then we were conducting a seance in the bar, and there was about 5 or 6 people in there that it was like it wasn't open on the night, but some of the people that regularly drank there, because they'd apparently seen the activity, wanted to be a part of this, so they were there. And we're asking out, and I was asking if someone could move anything or do anything to show that they were there. And the bar, the fridge in the bar area, suddenly flung open. So, oh, okay, interesting. We had cameras monitoring that, but the people that were working on the bar didn't know. So we carried on and we asked again. Again, that opened up. And I said, all right, we're going to take a bit of a break. You just want to review the footage, go through it all. So move those cameras looking. Notice the bar people were opening the fridge door. They were causing this. So we carried on investigating through the night, and then one of these bar people claimed that he'd been possessed by a spirit called Fred, and it all went a bit crazy. Then we heard that we found out from one of the people that was on our team, Mark. He was quite good at the history, and I think he'd come up and said that obviously the pub itself, the building itself, had been used in the past for doing judgments, sort of early judgments, police law and all of that kind of thing. And we're told that there was a Bible that had been stored in one of the chimneys, which apparently was from 17 something or other. So one of my team members, Chris, decided to get up inside the chimney, found the Bible, got it down, looked at it. It had on the date 1980 something or something. It was printed in 1980. Nothing to do with 17 or 1800. So we basically finished up that night, and I said to him, I'll come back. And I came back there a couple of days later, and I was talking to some of the people in the bar, just trying to get an idea of what was going on. And then I found out that the people that were managing it, they were like the third set of managers in 2 years. This was a place owned by Green King. And I found out that there was a local consortium of locals that wanted to buy the place, but they couldn't afford it. So they'd come up with this Scooby-Doo plan of sorts to try and scare these people off. So eventually Green King, and this is all absolutely true. This is absolutely remarkable. We were in the middle of this, and I ended up having to go to them and say, well, I'll show you this video. Here's a video footage of these people deliberately, fraudulently doing this stuff. Because apparently all kinds of things, and apparently the kids were getting scared upstairs. There was banging and knocking, and things were getting broken regularly. And it was these bar people that were in this consortium that wanted to buy this place cheaper. So it was not paranormal. Bloody hell, what a story. It was absolutely and it was nice to actually get to the bottom of that and be able to say to these people, you need to get rid of your stuff. You need to watch it out for these locals. In the end, they ended up getting going and moving away anyway, but crazy. Hold on.
Oh, so Simon, in response to the comment that you made about parapsychology, he said it was a Ouija board experiment. They wanted to prove that it was participants producing the sentences, not spirits, unless spirit needs the eyes of the subjects to make the words. Yeah, I think I've not come across that experiment, so I'd have a look at that.
Dyslexic, mate, and then that rules that out. If the spirit's dyslexic, they can't spell it. Next time you're doing a Ouija board, change the Ouija board for Scrabble and see if you can beat them.
Oh, they'd easily beat me. I'm not very good at Scrabble.
I mean, talking about the Ouija board, going back to the Ouija board, you're right, it is a parlour game. It was a game that the Victorians would play as part of their evening entertainment. They'd have friends around, seances, scrying. These are all kind of techniques that we use now that did kind of manifest or did come to, at a time where we had a lot of trance mediumship. So any type of physical mediumship or physical, basically any kind of activity that we can all observe at the same time, so it's very objective, can be traced back to and having Victorian roots, I believe, anyway. When you think of, the equipment we use, like the spirit box and K2 and stuff like that, I mean, a part of me will argue that a spirit box is just a more up-to-date version of
It's something else I won't use, spirit box. I won't use it because I did a couple of weeks experimenting with one. I had one of the what's it called, the SPR7 or something like that.
Yeah,
I was using that alongside a radio, and it's radio signals. I mean, at the end of the day, you can take out of that what you want to. You can put into it what you want to. But then there was a group in America. I can't think who the name was. They completely debunked it because they were basically using CB radio, and this guy was asking a question, can I have your name? And then this other guy, for example, was then saying Simon, 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 Simon. And eventually that was feeding through and catching it. Simon, oh, you're Simon, are you?
Oh,
okay. So it's all a bit subjective, isn't it? It's all a bit of how you view it. So totally. This is the problem with the paranormal, though, is that people we're putting stuff up now and saying, can this do the job? And we don't know, do we? We don't know if it can or can't.
No.
problem.
So
what I mean, like, oh, go on.
No, go on. No, go on.
I was going to say to you, like, obviously we're talking about equipment and that. I mean, what's would you say is your go-to equipment to use when you do go on investigations?
Obviously, the first you've got to have a decent camera. You've got to have a decent camera. I mean, obviously, you've seen my rig. I'll just grab it. It's got lots of cameras on it, and they're all looking at different spectrums of light. Hold on. As you can see, it's my baby. It's so basic Sony night vision on here. I've got a torch here that's different spectrums of light. 2 infrared boosters on here. The camera here I've adapted. It's a full spectrum camera, but I've inverted and changed the lenses around in it, and it seems to pick up different things differently. And I found that really interesting. I've got a bog standard one here, and then obviously I've got several mics for audio for recording. Another infrared booster, and this little gadget here is a new thing I've got. Hold on, I'll show you that one there. This basically is linked to 4 other little pods, which will give me temperature variations in the area I can keep a check. So, to be honest, this is obviously I can't wait to get out and use this because I've not had the chance to use it properly yet. So, but obviously, as I've said, I mentioned my gauze meter. I've had so much joy with that. It's random. Like I said to you, it often sounds like the actual something's trying to talk through it. So, and I'm not the only person that said that. There's been times when I've used that when I've gone out investigating. And sorry, getting the picture frame there. Hold on, that's it. Earthquake. There's been times when people have said to me, it actually sounds like people are talking to you. But then I think, to be honest, the best thing you've got is your brain. It's the best thing you've got. Your eyes, all of your senses. I mean, you're lucky, Kerry, because you've got obviously an extra sense with your spiritual thing going on.
In all my years as a medium, I've never heard it be called woo. That's a new one. I'll take that.
How would you class it?
I don't know, but that is the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, so thank you.
Really? No, seriously, it's. I mean, I do think that humans had a sixth sense. We would have needed. I mean, obviously, we don't need to hunt. We've got Tesco's and crap stores like that to get food from now. We had six senses. We knew where the best water was. We knew where to go to stay away from animals. We had all this stuff that was in us, and we've lost all of that. And I think that we've definitely. I mean, there's that thing someone says about you only use 10% of your brain. Well, that's rubbish. That's not true at all, is it? Obviously, you're using as much of your brain as you need to use. But I certainly think there's parts of our brain. I mean, there's a weird thing I was reading the other day about we have cannabis receptors in our brains, which means that we really, at some point, should have cannabis in our lives. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying that you know, why have a cannabis receptor in your brain if you're not going to use it? That means at some point in our past, we must have had maybe, I don't know, druidic or some influences that would have enabled us over the years or whatever to develop this extra thing, which obviously we now don't use. So as much as we are a human being, we're also we're linked to nature, we're linked to the planet, and I think people tend to forget that we're part of a bigger thing. We're not just, even though fundamentally when you think about it, you're alone inside yourself, and there's no better time to think about that, like 3 a.m. when everyone else around you is snoring and you're there, you can't sleep, and you've got all these weird shit going through your head, as you know. We're fundamentally alone, but we aren't alone. We're part of everything else. I don't want to get all deep and mystifying now.
Yeah, you just pulled that out of the bag 2 minutes before we meant to go. That's all right.
A bit of feeling between me, so everyone goes, maybe.
Jason, Terry's asked a question about: is there any validity to ghost hunter apps that they've got out there for your mobile phones?
That's a very good question, Terry. Terry Talks. Is that your name, or is that your name of your show? Because if that'd be Connect Apps.
Yeah.
The SLA. Are you on about not the actual Connect thing that you make from the Xbox? Are you actually on about the apps themselves? I mean, I would first of all say that if you're doing paranormal investigating and you're using apps, you're using a mobile phone. Why? Because if you're using a mobile phone, you can't use anything else, basically. Because a mobile phone is permanently sending out a signal. Someone said to me the other day about, what about if it's on flight mode? Well, you're still using the battery. It's still an energy source. It's still magnetic. It's going to interfere with everything you're using. So no, if you're going to do a live and you're using a mobile phone, you can't use any other equipment. It's that simple. You can't. So if you want to walk around, as I've done in the past, walked around a graveyard or anywhere by myself, looking all lonely and weird, talking to people that aren't there, then by all means use your phone. But if you're going to do a proper investigation, switch that bugger off, because everything that you do from then on is going to be ruled out, sadly.
Yeah,
apps,
I did admittedly download an app called Ghost Tube, and it just sends out random words, you know, like a novulus. Yes. Is it the ovulus? It's like that. And I've had one called Janet. I'm scared. I'm underwater. Murder. And I'm thinking, what the heck's going on?
I know the one you mean. I had cake, sweets, biscuits. I went and got something to eat. So
yeah. I think when it comes to equipment, though, everyone has their own preference and how they. It's always important to find your own flow. I have used apps and had some good responses, but I've also been I've been investigating for 10 years. So when we first started, mobile phones. That's the first thing we did was switch our phones off. So obviously time has evolved, and we evolve, and we bring for new things in, we try things and we take them out and put them back in again. So I've had some good experiences with apps, and I know some people that have made some really good ones, but at the same time, I think it's important that you do your own research, what works for you. If you're getting, like, for example, the experience that Laura had with her app, she knew it wasn't right for her, so she didn't use it. So, but in terms of mapping, you got a really cheeky smile on your face.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just thinking about the cake that I'm going to eat in a minute. I've got that whole piece of cake I've not started yet. Look, I can show you. That's no.
I'm eyeing it up as well. I'm totally that's what Laura looks like when she goes into a happy place. You'll be talking to her and she'll just start wondering, smiling to herself. What do you think about?
I literally have a theme tune when I go.
You have a theme tune? I have a theme tune when I'm walking. I have that song by Black. It's a Wonderful, Wonderful Life, and I'm walking along in my head.
That's a great theme tune.
Classic.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that does it. Then that's good. That feels so crazy.
What do you think's in Donald Trump's head when he's walking along? He's like some one of the films.
I reckon it's the Benny Hill song. That's what I think. So, but Terry Talks is actually one of our newest members. She joined today, so she's.
Hello, Terry Talks.
She's going to be doing some. Well, I keep calling them radio. I used to do radio. Like, I never used to do streaming before. So I used to do like radio, like podcasting and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Terry is going to be joining Laura on her fortnightly one.
Yeah, I'm going to have my new photo.
Your first one, wasn't it, Laura, tonight?
Yes, it was Laura's first one.
My first live. I did one last week briefly just to introduce myself, but this is my.
Oh, wow. I felt like I've been properly quizzed. Thank you.
I like that. Good. I'll put the spotlight on you.
Well, no, I'll glare off my forehead. Don't do that.
Same.
Shiny forehead.
So
do you know what? I've actually noticed it's taking longer to wash my face because my hair's going.
Same.
I'm going to get some advertising on it, like Coca-Cola or something, I think, just to.
So
I'll go to. Oh, go on, Kerry.
No, I was just going to end. We're coming.
You gentlemen.
Stop talking.
Can't help herself. It's just going to be one more thing, obviously, because we've now gone over the hour mark. But like people like me and anybody new that's coming in to want to be an investigator, what would be your advice to give to them to help them on their journey?
The first thing I would say is forget what you see on TV, because it isn't like that. I mean, what you tend to see on TV is maybe a few hours condensed down into a half hour or an hour long slot. I mean, to be fair, as you know, most TV shows, they claim they go to a site for 24 hours. But if you're producing a TV show, you'll be lucky if you get 6 hours investigating in that time, by the time you've done all your setting up and everything else. So, and scripting and all that stuff, it all takes its toll. So what I would say is keep your equipment very basic to start with. Find a site that's, don't go and spend loads of money as well. You don't need to spend loads of money on sites. Find a site close to you that's got a history of haunting, and then find a site that doesn't have a history of a haunting and compare them, get a contrasting going on. And I say, get yourself a camera, just do some basic recording. Don't use your phone unless you really have to, because that's, it's just pointless, really. If you need other equipment.
With the EMF detectors, isn't it?
Sorry?
Interferes with your EMF detector.
It interferes with your mobile phone will interfere with everything that you're using, so it's there's no point. It can even create like a static popping sound on your video from time to time. It's no, you'll then think, oh, what's causing that popping sound? Is it paranormal? And then you kind of and also don't go to a site once, go to it lots of times, and then get a kind of proper view. I mean, I like to go to sites many. I mean, I've probably done 1,000 investigations over maybe 100 sites. So that tells you how much I've gone to each site, because you need to build that experience up and work out. Because what happens one night, it could be a random noise, and another night you might think, oh, I know what's causing that noise now. So you need to do that. You need to just just keep it simple and don't watch American TV. I'm not afraid no ghosts. And find some good top to wear with your name on it as well. So.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us, Jason.
Thank you.
So we're going to be sharing lots of things that you've been speaking about tonight. So we're going to be sharing your photos, the audio from Bali Retreat.
Oh, God, it's finished now. I'm not going to do all that now. Oh, man.
So, extend it all over. We'll do it in one post. We'll do it in one bit simple. We'll do it in one post. But, we want to see it all. So make sure you send it over.
Oh, my God. I'm going to sleep tonight.
That's all right. We'll be up with you. It'd be teamwork. Do it together.
Sweet. Okay.
But
it's fine. To be fair, I think most of the clips are online anyway, so it's just a matter of just sharing that across. So that's what I'll do. I'll do that, and then you can make up your own mind. You can say this guy's a raving lunatic, or you can go, okay, cool, maybe he's right. I don't. Either's good for me. I don't mind. I've had both. Because I have to say, because my surname is Duke, and because of my weirdness at school, I was called Spooky Dookie. So there you go. That was my
I won't say what Kerry's is.
No, tell me.
No,
I won't. She'll kill me.
Is it Kerry? Woo.
Oh, I wish. And you know what makes it even worse?
Nice. That'd be nice.
The person who told everyone was my own dad. So it can't get any better than that.
Wow, what could that be?
I know.
Is this meant to do with wind? Or?
I will tell you after this broadcast finishes. We will tell you then.
Okay, fine. I'll just get my pen and pad. I can write it. Does it need investigating? That's the only question you need to ask.
Pardon?
Does it need investigating?
No.
I'm not.
Oh, there was a split. Did you hear that? Who made it?
No, it's not. It's just
Sweet.
really
embarrassing. You know what?
It's really embarrassing.
It's all gravy, as they say. I don't know who said that.
But thank you so much. Thank you for joining us this evening. And we're going to share everything that's yours. You've got loads of fantastic things coming up. You're working on lots of projects. So
I'm thinking about writing a book. I've kind of started doing the bones of it. I probably need to, after a quarter of a century of going out, being by myself in dark, scary places. I probably need some kind of, that'll be therapy for me, I think.
So it'll be interesting read. So so let us know if you do that, because we'd love to share that.
It'll be good for people that need to sleep, maybe. I don't know. People that watch this video are probably already nodding off, so that's fine.
No. Oh no, but thank you, and you'll be back with us again in a couple of weeks, won't you? We're going to schedule another interview with you.
Hopefully that'll be with me and Hannah, because then it'll be hopefully a chat about Dark Unknown. So that'll be good.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Hannah needs to walk down that scary path again and see what happens.
Oh, well, thank you. We're going to say goodnight to all our lovely.
Yeah, I really want to say thank you, Jason. It's been a pleasure interviewing you.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
So much information you've given us, so I really appreciate it. I want to say thank to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. Please share, subscribe to us. But we'll say goodnight from me, Kerry, and Jason. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Ciao.
Good night.